Hello and welcome to the News Minute. Tamil Nadu is witnessing an intense electoral battle, and the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu has termed it as an electoral battle between Team Delhi and Team Tamil Nadu. Joining me today is noted economist Parakala Prabhakar. Sir, thank you so much for talking to us. Your overview of this election, sir. Three key states, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal and Kerala are going to polls. And these are the states where the BJP is trying to focus. The BJP and other political parties in Tamil Nadu.
Well, even 2024 elections, Lok Sabha elections, we from the civil society have termed it as a fight between the people of India and the BJP. Today, the people of India are fighting the BJP, but the difference between the 2024 and this time is there is an additional factor. One, the old factor is this. The old factor is that there was a huge amount of irregularity in polling, and there's a huge amount of discrepancy between the preliminary poll data released by the ECI and the final poll data released by the ECI after a long gap. Phase 1 of Lok Sabha, they took 14 days to release the data. So, which amounted to, our calculation was that, it changed 79 seats fate. In other words, 79 seats have changed hands across 15 states, which put the present NDA government, NDA alliance in power. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been in power. Their number, if you subtract 79 seats, would have been the number, and the other alliance, the contesting alliance, would have got 79 seats there. That was the past. But the additional factor today is the SIR.
SIR.
We need to understand SIR in two contexts. One is the electoral context. The other one is the potential of SIR to change the nature of our political society. But let me first begin by telling you or explaining how it matters to the elections now at hand. So far, Shabbir, we have been used to our democracy being people, voters deciding who should sit in the government. With SIR, it is the government which is deciding who should be the voter. You can be a voter or you cannot be a voter, is their discretion. Now it has reached that stage. So in New India, we have a new democracy called, in other words, government deciding, the ruling party deciding who should be the voter. This is electoral implication. The other implication, which is a long-term implication, which has the potential to change the political nature of a political society, in other words, is that, if large sections of people, they could be minorities, they could be Adivasis, they could be Dalits, they could be marginalized economically, socially, etc., etc. If they are taken out of the electoral roll, then they would cease to be part of the political society of the country. Which means that only those people who still retain the franchise would decide, and these people, which means that these people are relegated to the second class status. After SIR, you will have in India two classes of people. One class with franchise, another class without franchise. This is the implication. So this needs to be fought back. Now, the fighting back.
Let me just interrupt.
Just a minute. Yeah. Just the fighting back is much more difficult now, because not only there are potential avenues for manipulation, but also the curated voting list. This is the double danger that Indian electorate and especially these three states face today.
So what has been the patterns that you have studied or you have seen in Bihar? Because that's the state that went immediately after SIR. So is there anything that is that clearly gives you an indication that this is a pattern that will be followed in other states? Because all poll-bound states have undergone SIR.
Okay. Bihar is one case, and Andhra Pradesh, which I studied extensively, is the other one. Let me first begin by Andhra Pradesh. Shabbir, Andhra Pradesh had seen an incredible kind of a polling pattern. The overall difference between the preliminary voting data and the final voting data, which was released after 4 days, was almost about nearly 13%, which is huge. Then, even more astonishing is between midnight and 2 a.m. in 3,500 booths, there was a record in the Election Commission's own portal of 491 voters exercising their franchise per booth. Overall, it makes the number is 70,20,000. Now, if you drill down the data, 2 hours 15 minutes, 11:45 to 2 a.m., 2 hours 15 minutes is 135 minutes. And per booth, the voting was 491, which brings it down to, if you drill it down, to per minute 3.6 votes. If you further drill it down, it comes to one voter exercised franchise per minute. I'm sorry, per 20 seconds. 20 seconds a voter exercised their franchise. Now, 20 seconds is, we had simultaneous votes
For Lok
Sabha and Assembly.
Yes.
That means that voter had exercised in 20 minutes, 20 seconds.
Just
Actually. I don't know why I'm saying this. 20 seconds, 2 votes. In that 20 seconds, you had 14 seconds dead time for the machines.
So the mission to reboot.
To show you the VVPAT and then the VVPAT to fall is 7 seconds and 7 seconds. So in this 20 seconds, you minus this 14 seconds. So which means it comes to 6 seconds per voter for exercising 2 votes, which means per vote it is 3 seconds. Now, tell me, is it credible? Is it possible? How was it done? Was it really done? Or were there 491 people waiting in the queue after 6 o'clock? Show us at least one shred of evidence. This is a gross manipulation, open manipulation. All this data was hiding in the open. But I have not done any jasusi. I have not done any detective work. I just looked at the data given by the Election Commission. Now, come to Bihar. Before the SIR exercise began and after the SIR, the number of voters have shrunk by 80 lakhs and came down to 7.42 crores. And in 3 days' time, they said, and this 7.42 crores, the Election Commission of India had said, wonderfully done, successfully done SIR, completed SIR. After you complete the SIR, in 3 days' time, you add another 1.5 lakhs to it. And then they take another 1 week. After 1 week, they add another 3.5 lakh votes. And after the polls are over, when they give you the statistical highlights in a separate thing, there is another number which is a hiked number of the total votes polled. Now, who are these people? And where did they vote? When did they get registered the results? Because all these registrations have happened after the SIR.
Okay.
So, there is enough room to suspect this until the election commission gives us a credible answer. So, the combination of this such a arbitrary increase in the number of voters or reduction in the number of voters, reduction in the number of voters before or along with the SIR, and before the polling, arbitrarily adding something. Who are these people who are being added, and who are the people who are being deleted? The 18 lakhs you delete and add another 5 or 6 lakhs. That's one. The second thing, which I told you about the Andhra Pradesh, manipulation of the process.
So when you talk about the manipulation of the process, it can't be done in secrecy. Like you said, the voting that took place in midnight, there should have been polling officers, there should have been booth agents, agents from political parties representatives would be there, candidates would be there. It would have happened in front of everyone, right? So then why are these political parties not raising these questions? Why is it taking so long for an economist like you to go through the data and ask these questions?
I think the best way to find that out is to ask the political parties. Because I cannot know why they have not raised it. I do not know actually. But the point is this. The point is it possible at all? Because, see, somebody who voted at 2 a.m. will have to, by law, join the queue at 6 o'clock. So, from 6 to 2 in the morning, 6 in the evening to 2 in the morning, 8 hours that person stood in the queue. Who is that person? I would like to do Padapuja to that person, because, you see, that person, she or he, was so committed to democratic process, isn't it? One. The second thing is, till today, the Election Commission of India doesn't tell you which are these 3,500 booths. We don't know. So, I suggested somewhere that, we had a World AI Summit. Similarly, we can have a World Democracy Summit and, show all these global leaders, please come and visit these 3,500 booths. People stood there for 8 hours in the queue until the wee hours at 2 o'clock to cast their vote. Such a great democracy ours is, isn't it? Why don't we celebrate it?
So what I've seen in the past is when elections happen or when general elections happen, they invite foreign channels. They ask them to come and do a documentary of how this entire process is, how complex this entire process is. When ballot boxes are carried on the back of the donkeys,
Yes.
To the mountains or to the, somewhere where there is one person who is a voter.
Gir Forest.
Gir Forest, yeah, Gir Forest. Like there are a couple of voters or remote villages. The election commission would come up with
In
reeds.
Arunachal Pradesh, a place called Malegaon,
Ah.
where there's just one voter.
One
Gir
voter.
Forest, there's just one priest in the midst of a forest.
So they would showcase that as an achievement.
Do the showcasing here also?
So the voter who was there standing in the queue till 2 a.m., who is that guy? So that's the question. But having said that, sir, why are political parties not asking this question? But if they feel that there is something that is wrong, if another huge number of voters have been added in last minute or the numbers have been inflated, then it's a red flag.
But you see, I'll tell you what. Don't think the political parties and the civil society has kept quiet. This is a kind of propaganda that the ECA is making. Nobody came to us and all that. No. You see, we have been consistently going to the election commission with a lot of memoranda, a lot of representations, etc. But the election commission did not respond to even one representation. But that is from the, and BJD had given, in Odisha is very similar. Odisha, BJD had given, but the Biju Janata Dal had given, and they had given it in 2024 December. So far, there is no response from the election commission.
So there is a pattern to it. Like it happened in Maharashtra, there were some discrepancies in the numbers.
Yes.
Then in Bengaluru, when Rahul Gandhi claimed that, there are some 300 people residing in one tent.
And Shabbir, please forgive me for interrupting you. Reporters Collective had done a field study of Bihar where they identified 890 voters in one house. That is. And those voters, their names would suggest that they are from different religions, different castes. Not only that, they are from different regions or states. For instance, you have one Ahluwalia, also Nataraja in the same house. So they wanted to go and see what is this house who had such microcosm of India in
Diversity.
diversity, microcosm of India in one house. They went, they looked around, they went to that village, they looked around, they did not find the house.
So now that we know that there is a pattern, now that we know that such things are happening, so what is your suggestion to political parties? Because Tamil Nadu is going to face elections. Like the DMK, they had their foot soldiers on ground when the SIR process was happening. But that is not the story. What happens during the polls, what happens after 6 p.m., all that are case studies now. Now we have different unusual patterns coming up. So what should political parties do both in like Kerala is already
Bengal.
but yeah, Bengal. So when these kind of unusual patterns come up, like what is that political party should focus on? How do they, you know, how do they find out what exactly is happening within a booth?
First of all, I think they should understand what happened in Andhra Pradesh, what happened in Odisha, what happened in Bihar. They should clearly understand that one. And then draw lessons from there and be alert, be very cautious that those routes are closed for the election commission and the ruling party. That it is not possible, ensure that it is not possible for them to do such things anymore in these states. But if you are, off guard, if you lower your guard, if it happens, the danger is once it happens and the results are declared, it's a legal process, it's a tortuous process, and your cadre will get demoralized, nobody would fight, all that kind of. So the trick is not to let that happen. Please don't wait, for them to declare whatever they want to declare, and then, it's very difficult to fight, very difficult to reverse an election.
So even
And before that, I think the political parties and the civil society organizations should raise their voice and ask the Election Commission of India, explain the Andhra Pradesh case. Now, Election Commission, it speaks through sources these days. It doesn't speak directly. They leaked some report after I wrote about AP experiment, AP manipulation. They said, what were you doing for the last 2 years? Where are these people sleeping? Now it's unconstitutional to, raise these issues. The point is this. As I told you, we have been continuously sending representations, meeting them. Not allowed. They are not. We are not allowed to meet, but we go and hand over our representation, or by mail or by post. They don't respond. The second thing is, how is it unconstitutional to ask for clarification? You see, if I say that, if my prayer is declare the election null and void, or declare somebody as the victor, then you can say that you don't have the locus standi because it has expired. The time is out. But I'm not asking for it. I'm simply asking Election Commission to tell us how is it possible that 491 people have exercised their franchise in 135 minutes. That's all.
BJP approaches elections, like SIR has also become an important political component of the way BJP plans elections. In this states that are going to polls, what do you think would be the impact, like immediate impact of SIR?
Oh, you see, the bottom line, Shabbir is that people's will, their opinion, does not reflect in the ballot box or the machine. So your survey might tell you something, but the result could be something else. So there is a complete disconnect between what people think, people's will, and the outcome of the election. This is what they have achieved in several states by now, even during the Lok Sabha elections. So that is the game plan.
Okay. And also, BJP has another cultural game plan where they weaponize history. From your point of view, there have been several attempts in in Tamil Nadu to weaponize history. For example, the Tiruparagunram issue, where the right-wing groups are demanding that the Deepam should be lit at a Deepatun, not at the usual place where the temple, where for several decades they've been. So, what is your take on these attempts by the BJP? Do you think that this is desperate or this is part of their game plan?
Well, this is a game plan, but you see, don't lose sight of that these kind of narratives are not new for India. These kind of narratives, individual maybe, Tirupura Kunram, etc., maybe the new ones. But overall, this narrative is more than 200-year-old. But Indian people have never ever accepted this. And that is why, in the past, during the days of Bharatiya Janata, BJS, they were taller leaders than these people. And they were, out and out on a Hindutva platform. They fought elections. They never crossed 9.7% of the vote. That is the reason why they slowly changed and talked about Gandhian socialism, and we are also secular. Actually, we are genuinely secular. They are not correctly secular. We are better. So they realized that this kind of a thing doesn't really go well with the Indian electorate. That is the reason why they have now resorted to these manipulations and SIR. So that, we might get distracted. Oh, they're winning it because, they have brought in a narrative. But this narrative is 200-year-old. Don't forget that.
My last question, sir. You come from a state which has seen personalities like NTR. Now, in Tamil Nadu, we have an actor who has launched a political party and he is contesting elections. What do you think would be the impact of an actor entering politics? Does this alter the political scenario of the state? Does it disrupt? Or what do you think is your opinion on it?
Well, it depends a lot on the ground reality. I don't think all actors have made a uniform impact. For instance, in our state, we had NTR, who had a whirlwind campaign. In 9 months, he became the chief minister. But we had another huge star, Chiranjeevi. It flopped. Here you had Shivaji Ganesan, flopped. MGR was successful. Therefore, I think the record is uneven. So you just, therefore, you have a recognizable face, and recognizable face will make your message reach larger. But if the message has to home in, the message has to really mean something, the ground has to be, ready for it. So if the ground is not ready, the messaging is not ready, if the actual situation is not ripe for that kind of an alternative, however big the actor is, it doesn't really go home.
Okay. Right, sir. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your valuable insights. Thank you, sir.